Hello everyone, it's Mark. I am the Sanderson collector, and I just got home from work to a nice big surprise, another box of foreign editions. Now, when the original shipment came in, I knew it was supposed to be 15 boxes, but only 14 of them arrived, so I assumed that the last box had gotten lost in the mail somewhere. Instead, it just took its sweet time to show up, and eventually did, so it's here, and I'm happy to have it and open it up. However, before I open it, I have a story that I want to tell you. This is the story of how I became the Sanderson collector. So in a previous video, I told the entire story of how I got into reading Sanderson's work, all the way from being a hyperactive kid to being addicted and wanting to read everything that he had ever written. However, I did not mention how I got into the collecting aspect of things. So, here's the way it happened. I originally only had one copy of all of his works, and everything was in paperback. I caught up to Brandon's work right around the time Alloy of Law was coming out, and I actually had to wait until it came out as a paperback, and at that point I was completely caught up with Brandon's work, and I wanted to buy any future books that I got in hardcover. Soon after that, I met Brandon and got Steelheart in hardcover and got everything signed by him. I told the story of that day in my previous video as well, and it was absolutely amazing. And so at that point I had a book by Sanderson in hardcover, which was rare for me at the time. As a kid, I hardly ever got any books in hardcover. For budget reasons, we always had to wait until the book came out in paperback, and then we would go to the bookstore and get it, unless we could find it at the used bookstore. And I was reliant on my parents' money, of course, because I was a kid. But around the time I met Sanderson, I was in college and I started working as a learning assistant for a math class, so I had some of my own spending money as I was going through college. And one day I was at the used bookstore and I found this, a hardcover copy of Alloy of Law, which I previously only had in paperback. And I was like, okay, can I get this? And it was like $8 maybe, because it was at half-price books. And so I decided, okay, I think I can get this. So I went ahead and picked it up, bought it, checked out, and suddenly, for the first time ever, I had two copies of the same book. And it just kind of got out of control from there. I started finding the other books at used bookstores, used online, and so on in hardcover, because I really liked the hardcovers and I wanted to complete that set. And at some point after that, I decided that I liked the UK editions, and it really was just a slippery slope. Once I had one edition, I had to get them all. Now, of course, that has led to me doing some pretty crazy things, too. Like, in November, when I went to the release party for Oathbringer, I bought, I think, 7 or 8 copies at the release party. Only, 2 or 3 of those were for myself. The rest of them were for friends or giveaways and so on. But, the joke among the other beta readers who were there at the release party was that I was the guy who was going to put Oathbringer on the New York Times list, because I bought so many copies. Now, the Spanish covers of Mistborn are some of my favorite covers of Sanderson's work in any language. If you haven't seen them, the Spanish Mistborns have this amazing triptych by Mark Simonetti on the front, which was originally done for the Brazilian edition of the Mistborn books, but was moved to the Spanish editions as well when they came out with a new copy, which I am very grateful for, because the original Spanish Mistborn cover was utterly hideous. And so when they added these editions in Spanish, I went ahead and grabbed them as quickly as I could online. I had been trying to find the Brazilian editions for a while, and I couldn't get them without paying like $50, $100 of international shipping on each one. So I grabbed the Spanish editions because they were relatively cheap, and I really wanted the covers, and that was the start of my foreign edition collection. Maybe eventually I'll have all the editions, all the translations, who knows? That's the goal. So without further ado, let's see what foreign editions I get to add to my collection today. Alright, foreign edition box for today, part 1. It is a Taiwanese edition of one of the Mistborn books, and it's one that I don't think I have yet. And this is Bands of Mourning in Taiwanese, which means I now have 5 of the 6 Mistborn books in the Taiwanese editions. Now, as with all the Taiwanese Mistborns, I don't really understand what the artwork on the front is supposed to represent. It's really pretty, and I like the calming color palette that they've chosen for this whole series, so I still like these covers, and I'm glad to have this 5th Taiwanese edition to add to my collection. I only need the Well of Ascension to complete the set of all of the Taiwanese Mistborn books. And here's Alcatraz in French. This looks to be Alcatraz Book 2 because of the big 2 on the front, I'm assuming. Yep, Original title, Alcatraz versus the Scrivener's Bones. So this is Alcatraz Book 2 in French with a cover I haven't seen before. And it's this really nice middle-sized paperback edition. It looks like it has the original Alcatraz text because it doesn't have the artwork from the later edition in here, and it's this cool paperback that still has a dust jacket that, oh wow, okay, now that's cool. I did not know that was under there till I pulled this off. There's an alternate cover under the dust jacket, which, if I'm being honest, looks even cooler than the cover that's on the dust jacket for this French edition. So that's super cool. I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with this dust jacket because I definitely want to show off this weird burning skull cover in some way at some point. So this is the third French edition of Alcatraz versus the Scrivener's Bones I have. I've got this new one. I have the omnibus that has the first 4 Alcatrazes in it, and I have the French edition with the UK cover art. The ones that I previously had, both were published by Orbit. This one appears to have been published by a different publisher. It says Mango on the inside. I'm assuming that's what the M stands for. So yep, they changed publishers at some point with the French editions of Alcatraz. It does, however, look like the translations are the same. I only scanned a couple pages in here, but the text looked identical, so they likely used the same translation into French for both of these editions. So this is a super cool edition to add to my collection, especially with this cover under a cover. And the last thing in the first part of this box is another French edition of Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. This one seemingly by the same publisher as the one I just showed you. It has the M on the spine, and yep, it says copyright 2010 Mango. I sometimes wish we had more reissues with different covers like this on the US version. So let's see what else is in this box. Part 2 of the box for today. And it is a French Rithmatist in larger format paperback, which would probably be YA paperback or trade paperback in the United States, with all of the little diagrams and figures in there. It's always super cool to see those. I really like the art that Ben did for this book, and the cover is super cool too. Now, I already had a copy of this, but it was the mass market paperback size, so it's nice to add the trade paperback size as well. I wish there was a US edition with this cover art because it's my favorite, I think. All right, so, okay, I don't know what this is, but it is gorgeous. Look at that color. That is amazing. And it says, unsurprisingly, that it is Warbreaker, the book all about colors. So it's got this little binding on there that's keeping 2 volumes together. So I'm assuming this is Warbreaker Part 1 and Part 2. This looks like Chinese or Taiwanese. I don't know exactly. I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm going to have to keep these together and also figure out a way to show off the covers because that is absolutely gorgeous. I love these covers. So pretty. And one more thing in the foreign edition box this week. And it's nice and heavy, so there's probably something good in here. And the last set of foreign editions for this week, it's all French and Taiwanese so far, it looks like, so I wonder if this is more of the same. And that looks Taiwanese. That is the Taiwanese Legion. And that is a really nice edition. You probably can't see it very well on the camera, but the cover here is really nice and textured, and it almost feels leather, even though it is a softcover book. And it says here, oh, this isn't just Legion, this is actually Legion Skin Deep in Taiwanese, with a super cool cover showing Legion and some of his aspects there. So this is a really neat edition. It's really nice and honestly really fun to just pet these editions because the leather feel to the cover is really nice. So glad to add that one. And okay, here's another one with another really nice cover feel. It's the Emperor's Soul in Taiwanese, and okay, this is some more absolutely gorgeous fan art. Now, since the Emperor's Soul was originally inspired by some Asian, I believe, Taiwanese traditions, this is appropriate that there is a Taiwanese edition showing Shai on the cover, and oh my gosh, this is absolutely my favorite Emperor's Soul cover art that I have seen in any language. This is so stunning, and it's so cool to add these novellas in Taiwanese to my collection because they're so pretty and so well done. And so I'm glad to have Legion Skin Deep and Emperor's Soul in Taiwanese. And getting down to the last books, it looks like I've got Rithmatist in Taiwanese, with a cool cover that is similar to the US cover but different. Still has rhythmic symbols on the front, and it still has the artwork inside from Ben McSweeney, so that is super cool. I'm glad that they found a way to include that in the Taiwanese text. So that's another pretty Taiwanese addition to add to my collection, and it's barely longer than Emperor's Soul or Legion's Skin Deep, the way they've got the pages set out. So that's interesting. I assume it's the full book, but we'll see. Maybe it isn't. And the last one is, unfortunately, Mistborn Alloy of Law in Taiwanese, which I already have a copy of, so now I have two. It does have a bookmark in here. No idea what this says, but that's cool. So I'm definitely keeping that. But the rest of this book, I think... And, ooh, cool, they did. They translated the broadsheets into Taiwanese. But unless this is a different printing or something, I'm going to have to figure out what to do with this edition as well, because it is an extra edition of Alloy of Law in Taiwanese. So let me get all these put on my shelf real quick. So I've got everything on my shelves now. So now you have the story of how I became the Sanderson collector, and you've seen another set of foreign editions, and it looks like I have around 140 non-English editions on my shelves now. And I know I have a lot more to go, so if you know of any of the foreign editions that I'm missing and how I can get them easily without having to pay exorbitant foreign shipping fees here in the United States, please let me know in the comments. And if you have a question about any of these foreign editions, you can also leave that in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quickly as I can. I answer all the questions that people ask. It may take me a while sometimes just because I'm busy with work and other things in my life, but I will get back to you if you ask a question. And if you're enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe.